everyone see the sign outside? How do you like it? Good? The Maingate Islamic Academy sign. If you come from the front, you will see it if you park in the front. It's beautiful, mashallah, you should see it. Okay. So, what I'm going to talk about today is something related to something I saw on Facebook a few days ago. It's basically a video, a short video. I couldn't see the video, but I saw the message or the title. And what happened, basically, a couple of guys, they had a dog, and they cut off the ears of the dog. Yes. Is that good or bad? Bad. So, this is haram, Islamically. This is haram, and this is not acceptable. So here today, inshallah, we're going to talk about animals. Some of you like to keep pets. We were talking about cats and fish and other things. That's okay. That's all right. If you keep a cat or a parrot or a fish, that's okay. But make sure you feed them and you take good care of them. But if you leave the bird or the cat or whatever pets you have in the house, and you lock them up in a cage, or you leave them in the house and travel for a whole week, and they're starving in the house, this is not acceptable Islamically, right? You have to take good care of them. And we know from Islam that doing something good or taking care of animals is as good as doing a good thing or a hasana or something good to a human being, and abusing animals is as bad as abusing human beings. Have you heard of the hadith about the woman who starved a cat to death in her house? That's bad. And about the person who gave water to the dog in the desert and Allah gave him Jannah, right? So it's the same concept. There is this ayah in Surah Hajj. So every time I read this ayah, it's very powerful basically. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَلَمْ تَرَى أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَسْجُدُ لَهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ ومن في الأرض والشمس والقمر والنجوم والجبال والشجر والدواب وكثير من الناس وكثير حق عليه العذاب. So the ayah says basically, have you not seen that to Allah submits or makes sajda everything in the heavens and the earth, including the sun, the moon, the trees, the mountains, all the creation of Allah? Then it's including the animals. It says what dawab, all the animals or the living beings that live in this world. Then it says, as well as many human beings, but many are destined for punishment in Jahannam. So when it talks about animals, it says that all of them obey Allah, they listen to Him. But when it comes to human beings, some of us do, some of us don't. If you look at the Quran, in Surah Naml, there's a bird that spoke to one of the prophets. Do you know the name of the bird? Yes? Hudhud, mashallah. Hupu in English. So the bird spoke to Sulaiman alayhi salam, and it says basically that it saw the people of Yemen making sajda to the sun. So there is an interesting thing here. Have you ever seen an animal or a bird making sajda to another animal or a bird? Do they make statues of other birds and animals and make sajda to them? This is something we do, right? So this is the difference between them and us. They obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they only worship Him. So the bird, the hudhud, was basically pulling his hair or feathers off like he was going crazy. He said to Sulaiman alayhi salam, can you imagine these people that are making sajda to the sun? Right? It doesn't work like this. And he said they should make sajda to Allah. The bird is complaining. He's saying, you see what these human beings are doing? They are making sajda to the creation of Allah. They should make sajda to Allah. The examples are so many in the Quran. In the story of Nuh alayhi salam, in Surah Hud and other places in the Quran, when Nuh alayhi salam was making the ship, the people were making fun of him. Then right before the flood came, Nuh alayhi salam said to the animals and birds, and let's go on board. They all walked up, no problem, let's go. But for human beings, he said, let's go up the ship. They started making fun of him. A ship in the desert? You lost your mind? This is what they said. And they said, you have been making da'wah for 950 years, you were a failure. This is what they said. Then they said, maybe if you try to be a carpenter, maybe you'll be successful. So leave this prophethood thing and focus on carpentry, maybe you'll be successful. So the great majority of them refused to believe in him, and they refused to go up the ship with him. But the animals went up, no questions asked. But for humans, Allah says in Surah Hud, وَمَا آمَنَ مَعْهُ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. Very few actually believed in his message. Then you know the rest of the story, what happened. I'm going to conclude with this story, and inshallah one day I'm going to give some khutbahs here, like 2-3 khutbahs about what we can learn from animals as based on the stories in the Quran and also in Hadith. Have you heard about something called a feasibility study? A feasibility study. Okay, so this basically means that before you start a project or if you want to do something, you study the situation and you see if this will be successful or not. The first lesson I got about feasibility studies, I learned from an animal in the village in Egypt. I grew up as a farmer in the village. We had donkeys, we used them to carry stuff to the farm and back to the house. And we had little channels on the way to the house and to the farm. They didn't have tubes back then in the early 1980s. So what happens, you're walking with the animal, and there are always these small channels, and the animal has to cross all the time. And sometimes they have heavy loads on their backs. So what happened basically, if you try to get the donkey to cross, what they do basically, they take one step to the back, they look at the channel to see the distance, and they make calculations in their mind. If it is jumpable, if they are able to do it, they will do it. They'll go one step back, then they will jump, if they can do it. But if they can't, even if you kill them, they will never jump, because they know that they're not going to be able to do it. In our case, what we did basically, a channel, then we jump, we fall right in the middle of the water. So this is something I learned from a donkey in the village. Before you jump, before you cross, before you start a project, you have to look at what is going on, what you have, what you can afford, and if this will be successful or not. By just looking at the animal, making all these calculations and planning ahead of time, this is something we can learn from him. And there are so many examples in the Quran that I'll share with you one day, inshallah. But the bottom line is, animals are from the creation of Allah. They worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they don't disobey Him, and we should treat them with kindness, and we should be kind to them, and not abuse them as we saw in the video. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the best in this life, and the best in the life to come. Give us sincerity in everything we say and do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and your family. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum. See you tomorrow.